Phil Elmore did an excellent video on the Piper system, which had some stuff in there that is important to understand if you do any form of knife combatives, which I will get into here a little bit because I practice the Medusa system, a very practical knife combative system for one purpose.
Piper is what I would characterize as a knife cult. I don't use the term cult pejoratively. Libre fighting would be a knife cult. Piper is a knife cult. I'm trying to think if I can think of a different, another example. Down through the years, there have been a number of people who essentially started a knife cult. And all I mean by that is that it is a self-defense system built around the knife. Medusa would be another example of a knife cult.
While I don't agree with the, the term knife cult, I prefer knife combatives. Listen to how he describes it and see if it's accurate to what we're training in arts like Medusa and Piper and Libra, and see if his points are valid.
Again, I'm not using the term cult negatively. It's not like they're, telling you to put on your Nikes and wait for the comet to come. I'm saying that rather than being a fully developed, fully faceted martial art that is supposed to be a way of life and is, has years and years of history behind it, a knife cult is more of a purpose-driven self-defense method that is intended to be used with a knife. And I don't think any of the people involved in these organizations would disagree with that definition, because while there are empty-hand applications in what they do, and we'll get to that when it comes to Piper, but they are about using the knife. You are acknowledging that you are equipping yourself with a lethal weapon, and you are equipping yourself with the means and the method to deliver lethal force. Therefore, you have to understand the legal ramifications of doing so and not deploy that force if it's not warranted. You're saying, I want expedient self-defense that is built around carrying a tool that can be used to deliver lethal force. I say all this because what you're doing when you become a Piper practitioner, just like when you become a practitioner of Libre fighting or Medusa or any other knife-oriented system, you are acknowledging that you are equipping yourself with a lethal weapon, and you are equipping yourself with the means and the method to deliver lethal force. Therefore, you have to understand the legal ramifications of doing so and not deploy that force if it's not warranted.
If you're going to train in any system that uses lethal force, you need to understand how to modify your use of force to meet the level of force that is being used against you. When it comes to knife, understand that you will be viewed, no matter how you use the knife, as using lethal force, and you will likely have to prove yourself in court to have been using reasonable force. On top of this, when it comes to your training, you need to be able to have a broad set of skills so you can meet the level of force that is appropriate to the situation. You need to have soft skills, lots of soft skills, because 90% of self-defense is not fighting. It's about those soft skills that allow you to avoid and de-escalate situations. If you don't have that, you should get it. And you should research the self-defense laws in the area and culture that you live in. You need to understand this stuff if you're going to be a serious practitioner of self-protection. The thing that I find funny about practicing a combative system like Medusa is how often people who practice martial arts like Filipino martial arts, where we use knives, are a little uncomfortable by the degree of violence that we're expressing in the Medusa system. I find this somewhat intellectually disingenuous. It doesn't matter the system that you use. If you pull a knife you're into some serious legal issues. If you pull a knife and do violence to another human being, it won't matter if you're cutting the limbs to disable them, because the powers that be will not understand the difference between a defensive wound and a wound meant to disable. You will be in a very hard legal position. Using any kind of a weapon for self-defense is going to make your legal problems worse, and you will have to prove that you were using reasonable force. And you may fail at that, especially if you don't understand use of force models and how to explain your actions. And if you get a lawyer who is not experienced at self-defense law. This is something that you want to avoid, and never have to do. But the Medusa system is one of the best ways to keep in mind the seriousness of what pulling a knife really is. I mean, you could do flow drills and do a lot of really awesome choreography. But keep in mind, that's not what using a knife in personal protection is at all. It gives you transferable skills, but it also creates a mindset that may be just a little too at ease with playing with knives than doing a serious knife combative system creates, in my opinion. I love Filipino martial arts. I practice it every single day of my life. It is a huge passion for me. But I also see the value of doing these kinds of combatives to add a little bit of realism to your mental outlook on knife use. And it also gives you a base on what to train against for empty hand defense against knife, and just how unlikely it is that you will be able to do that against somebody who's really intent on killing you. Avoidance, awareness, good boundaries, and escape. Primary self-defense right there. This is the very last option on a huge mountain of options. Thank you.